Have you ever felt overlooked by your own family? It's a subtle ache that settles in gradually, especially when it comes from those you've cherished and supported for years. The most exasperating part? Getting upset often makes things worse. The louder you speak, the more they ignore you. The more you try to clarify, the more they dismiss you with an eye roll. So, what can you do when respect is absent, yet you're not ready to give up on them? In this video, we'll explore something rarely discussed: how to respond to family disrespect without anger, pleading, or losing who you are. These 7 strategies aren't about punishment or manipulation. They're about quietly reclaiming your strength in ways that shift how others perceive you, how they treat you, and, most importantly, how you view yourself. Stick with us until the end, because the final tip might be the most transformative. It could reshape not only how your family sees you, but how you navigate every relationship in your life. If you've ever felt disregarded, dismissed, or undervalued by those closest to you, this video is for you. Let's dive in. Number 1. Emotional distance that earns respect. When family disrespects you, the instinct is to react by explaining, begging, or getting angry. But these responses rarely help. In fact, they often reinforce the behavior you're trying to stop. What truly changes the dynamic is something quieter, more intentional: emotional distance. This doesn't mean cutting ties or acting cold. It's about stepping back just enough to stop seeking their approval and start safeguarding your peace. When a family member talks over you, ignores your input, or takes your kindness for granted, it's tempting to fix the situation. But trying to mend something they don't value becomes a one-sided effort. Emotional distance lets them feel the weight of your absence, even while you're still present. It's choosing not to answer their calls immediately when they only reach out for convenience. It's stopping the habit of offering help when it's consistently unappreciated. You stay kind, polite, and composed, but you stop overextending yourself. That subtle shift speaks louder than any argument ever could. I once knew a man named Thomas, 78, who drove his daughter and grandchildren everywhere. Appointments, errands, anything they needed. He never complained, but over time, they stopped saying thank you. They assumed he'd always be available. When he raised the issue, they brushed it off, calling him overly sensitive. So, Thomas made a simple change. He stopped offering rides. He didn't argue. He just returned to his own routine. It didn't take long for them to notice, and more importantly, to approach him with greater respect the next time they needed help. This kind of emotional boundary isn't about being distant or withholding. It's about recognizing that love without boundaries often goes unnoticed. When your efforts are always available, they become invisible. So, if you've been giving too much for too long, gently shift the balance. Let them reach out. Let them wonder where your energy went. That pause in your effort might just rekindle their appreciation. Emotional distance also benefits you. It gives you room to breathe, to see your worth apart from their reactions. Once you start living from a place of quiet self-respect, not frustration or people-pleasing, you become someone others naturally treat differently. Not because you demanded it, but because you stop making it easy to overlook you. Sometimes, the strongest message is the one you send by saying less and doing less. Number 2. The strength of silence in disrespectful moments. When a family member says something hurtful, something dismissive, sarcastic, or outright rude, your first impulse might be to defend yourself, snap back, or clarify their misunderstanding. But here's a truth many overlook. Arguing in those moments doesn't make you seem stronger. It makes you seem shaken. When people see they can rattle you, even unintentionally, they're less likely to take you seriously later. What works better, though it takes practice, is silence. Deliberate, well-timed silence. Silence isn't weakness. It's clarity. It signals, I heard you, and I'm choosing not to let it control me. In families where habits run deep, this kind of silence can disrupt old patterns in the most effective way. By staying quiet after a disrespectful comment, you're not just ignoring it, you're refusing to engage with it. You make the moment feel weightier, and that weight often sparks awareness, even if they don't admit it. They notice, and over time, they hesitate before speaking that way again. I knew a woman named Linda, 74, who was teased at every family dinner. They called her old-fashioned or said she worried too much. She used to laugh it off to keep the peace, but it stung. One year, she stopped laughing. She didn't respond. She simply looked at the speaker, held their gaze briefly, and turned her attention elsewhere. The room felt different. The teasing stopped, and eventually, her family missed her warmth, her stories, her presence. That's the paradox of silence. Sometimes, saying nothing is the loudest message. This works best with calm body language. No eye-rolling, no sighing, no dramatic exits. Just stillness, a brief pause, then a return to your meal, your book, or a task that doesn't involve explaining yourself to someone who isn't ready to listen. You stay rooted in your dignity, not their chaos. You'll be tempted to break the silence with a joke or a correction, but if you hold it, even for a few seconds, you reclaim your strength. You step out of the old role and into something new. It may feel awkward or uncomfortable at first. That's growth. That's the sound of a pattern starting to shift. If you're finding these insights helpful, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend subscribing and turning on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us keep creating content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move on. Number 3. Small boundaries that create big change. One of the most underrated ways to restore respect in a family is also one of the simplest. Set boundaries. Quietly, calmly, and consistently. Many think boundaries require grand speeches, heated arguments, or cutting people off. But real boundaries aren't ultimatums. They're subtle lines drawn in daily life. Once you start setting them, even in small ways, you teach others how to treat you without ever raising your voice. Boundaries aren't about controlling others' actions. They're about what you choose to allow. Maybe it's your daughter calling late at night to vent, leaving you too tense to sleep. A boundary could be letting calls go to voicemail after 9 p.m. Maybe it's your son expecting you to babysit on a whim without gratitude. A boundary might be saying, "I'm not available this weekend," without justifying it. Each choice sends a message. Your time matters, your rest matters, and your peace isn't negotiable. I once knew a man named Harold, 81, who attended every family gathering, even when they left him uneasy. He endured arguments and tolerated backhanded jokes, leaving drained. Then, one year, he RSVP'd no. No explanation, no apology, just a polite decline. That small act of self-protection sent ripples. His family noticed his absence, not just physically, but emotionally. And they began to wonder what would make him feel valued enough to return. The key to boundaries is follow-through. If you set a limit, stick to it. If someone speaks to you in a way you no longer accept, calmly excuse yourself and don't rejoin the conversation until the tone shifts. These aren't acts of hostility. They're acts of self-respect. Over time, even the most dismissive family member senses a change. Your time, energy, and presence aren't guaranteed. They're privileges. Boundaries also remind you that you're not powerless against disrespect. You have choices, options, and the right to live with dignity, even when others don't offer it freely. When you honor yourself in these small, consistent ways, you stop waiting for others to do it first. You show what respect looks like simply by how you carry yourself. That quiet leadership often turns things around, not instantly, but steadily, with lasting impact. Number 4. Actions that speak louder than words. When family disrespects you, it's natural to want to explain, correct, or teach them. You might think, if I could just make them see how much I've done, they'd treat me better. But explanations often fall flat, ignored, misunderstood, or even used against you. When someone has already chosen to disrespect you, your words lose weight. What carries weight, however, are your actions, steady, quiet, and undeniable. People notice patterns, not lectures. They notice when you stop fixing their problems, stop reminding them to call, or quietly step away from toxic conversations. You don't need to announce what you're doing. You just do it. Over time, they see you differently. Not because you told them to, but because your behavior demands attention. That shift in energy plants the seed of respect, where there was once only expectation. I knew a woman named Patricia, 76, who was the family peacemaker. She mediated her kids' arguments and ensured forgotten birthdays were still celebrated. But year after year, her efforts were taken for granted. So she tried something new. She didn't lecture. She stepped back. When no one planned her own birthday, she didn't mention it. She spent the day with a neighbor, quietly content. That one act, no drama, no guilt, changed the dynamic. Her children realized how much she'd been holding things together, not because she said it, but because they felt her absence. The most powerful way to communicate respect is by modeling it. When you show dignity, by speaking calmly, withdrawing from harmful moments, or investing your time where it's valued, you teach others through example, not instruction. You don't need to explain why you're doing less or justify your limits. Those who matter will notice, and those who don't were never truly listening. When you stop trying to convince people to treat you well, you free up space to live well, regardless of their response. You move from asking, "Why don't they see what I do?" to, "What else can I do with my energy today?" That simple question, asked consistently, shifts your life from reaction to leadership, not over others, but over yourself. It's the kind of leadership that stands taller, speaks slower, and commands attention without demanding it. If these insights resonate, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing and turning on the bell to stay updated. Your support fuels our mission to create inspiring content. Let's keep going. Number 5. Self-respect routines that shift perceptions. When you've spent years prioritizing others, showing up despite poor treatment, and putting their comfort above your own, it's easy for people to overlook your value. One of the most powerful ways to counter disrespect isn't to demand recognition, but to redirect your effort inward, toward yourself. Not in flashy ways, but through small, daily routines that rebuild your self-respect and subtly change how others see you. It might start with how you dress in the morning, not to impress anyone, but to feel confident in your own skin. It could mean eating meals at the table instead of in front of the TV, or keeping your space tidy, not for guests, but for your own peace. It might look like a daily walk, listening to music you love, or reading something that sparks your curiosity. These aren't indulgences. They're signals, to yourself first, and eventually to others, that you value your life, your time, and your presence. I remember Richard, 80, who had devoted his life to caring for others. When his family began treating him like he had little left to offer, he didn't confront them. Instead, he started caring for himself. He got a fresh haircut, joined morning classes at the community center twice a week, and slowly, his demeanor changed. He smiled more, spoke with new energy, and when his family noticed, their tone shifted. They didn't say it outright, but they began listening more closely, asking for his input again, not because he sought their attention, but because he stopped looking like someone who'd given up. When you show up for yourself, others can't help but notice. It's not about showing off. It's about carrying yourself with care, sparking curiosity. Why are you standing taller? Why are you smiling more? That curiosity often grows into admiration, and admiration fosters respect, even from those who once dismissed you. What matters most is that these routines are for you. When you treat yourself with the care you've always hoped to receive, you stop relying on others' validation. Ironically, that's when they often start offering it, not because they were coerced, but because they were inspired. The shift begins within you, with every small act that says, "I still matter. I always have." Number 6. Strength and support beyond family. When respect within your family fades, it can feel like your world is shrinking, like the people you counted on have stepped away or shut you out. In that isolation, it's easy to believe something's wrong with you or that there's nowhere else to turn. But here's a truth few mention. One of the quickest ways to restore your sense of worth isn't by fixing your family. It's by finding connection outside them. Friends, neighbors, community groups, even strangers who offer kindness. These people may not share your blood, but they can uplift your spirit just as deeply. Too many older adults let their social circles shrink over time. Children move away. Friends drift apart. And without realizing it, You lean heavily on the few family members nearby, even if they treat you poorly. That dependence becomes emotional quicksand. But you're never too old to expand your world. Whether it's a weekly class, a faith community, a walking group, or a familiar face at the store, small interactions outside the home replenish what disrespect drains. I knew Teresa, 82, who felt unheard at home. Her son rarely visited, and her grandchildren were polite but distant. One day, she began volunteering at a local community kitchen twice a month, not because she had extra time, but because she needed to feel useful. Within weeks, her laughter returned, her posture lifted, and when her son finally visited, he noticed. "You seem different, Mom," he said. Her life had grown bigger than his opinion. These external connections aren't replacements. They're reinforcements. They remind you of your value, your wisdom, and the richness of your conversations. When your identity is tied too closely to people who don't respect you, it's easy to lose sight of your worth. But when you invest your energy where it's welcomed, your confidence rebuilds. Quietly, steadily, unapologetically. And when your family sees you no longer waiting for their approval, investing instead in people who truly value you, they begin to reconsider. Maybe not immediately, but over time, the message lands. You're not stuck, you're not desperate, and you're not living on their terms. If this resonates, comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, and turn on the bell to stay updated. Your support helps us keep creating meaningful content. Let's move forward. Number 7. Reframing. Disrespect as a reflection, not a verdict. When a family member disrespects you, it's easy to take it personally, to believe it reflects your worth, your shortcomings, or your role as a parent or sibling. But the reality is often different. Disrespect rarely stems from clarity. It's born of confusion, projection, or pain. When someone speaks to you coldly, dismissively, or sarcastically, they're not always describing you. They're revealing themselves, their stress, their immaturity, their unresolved feelings. Learning to see it this way frees you from carrying burdens that aren't yours. There's a quiet power in this perspective. You stop reacting as if every harsh word is a personal attack. You start seeing those moments as mirrors, not measures of your value. It's like looking into a cracked mirror and realizing the distortion isn't your fault. Best of all, when you stop engaging with their projections, they lose interest in aiming them at you. I knew Samuel, 85, who spent years trying to win his son's approval. No matter what he did, gifts, support, visits, it was never enough. The criticism persisted. You were never there when I needed you, or, you just don't get it. Instead of arguing, Samuel began listening differently. He told me, I realized he wasn't talking to me. He was talking to the father he remembers, the one in his head. That shift changed everything. Samuel kept showing up, but stopped apologizing for a past he'd already made peace with. Over time, the tone softened. This is what it means to lead with grace, not resentment. It's seeing others' behavior through compassion, not confusion. That doesn't mean excusing poor treatment. It means understanding it enough to let it slide off you. Once you do, something inside you settles. You see your own story more clearly, not through others' judgments, but through your own wisdom. When you lead with this grace, you become unshakable. Your energy shifts. You stop absorbing negativity and start reflecting it. You may still feel sadness or frustration, but it won't consume you, because you know what's yours and what isn't. For those around you, this change is noticeable. They may not say it, but they feel it. You're not reacting as you once did, not defending, not over-explaining, just being steady, grounded, unbothered. That presence carries weight. It sparks curiosity, then respect, not because you demanded it, but because you lived it. Final thoughts. If your family has ever made you feel small, invisible, or inadequate, hear this. You are not powerless. You don't need to shout to be heard, and you don't need permission to live with dignity. Every small choice you make, stepping back instead of chasing approval, holding silence instead of defending, building routines that nurture you, connecting beyond your home, is a quiet statement. I respect myself whether you do or not. That self-respect creates ripples. People notice, dynamics shift, And slowly, without conflict or demands, your presence gains new weight. You're no longer just the person they overlook. You're the one they listen to again, if only because your peace speaks louder than their noise ever could. So, if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. You can't force anyone to see your worth, but you can live in a way that makes it undeniable. And once you start, you don't just earn their respect, you gain something far greater, your own. If this video resonated, share it with someone who might need it. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more insights like these. Until next time, stay grounded, stay steady, and never forget, your value was never up for debate. Thank you for watching. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below with one thing you learned today and how you plan to apply it. Your thoughts matter to us, and reading them inspires and motivates us. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us keep creating content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.